Well, I actually arrived at Chenard in the September 1957 out of high school. As a year's scholarship there, and it went on to 1959. I met Ed Ruscha there, and Joe Good, Larry Bell, Stefan von Hune, Danny Johnson, and I'm leaving some people out. Ron Murashiro, No Padeshi, and Larry Bell. And Bob Irwin was teaching art history there, and I studied with Watson Cross as my first painting teacher, and then Ed Reek came into the picture, and I ended up studying with Wolfer and Dick Rubin following that.
Cool. One thing before we continue, Tom, is there any way to take that bag off the door, just because it's sort of getting in the shot, and then we'll get back to it. If you just put it on the ground even, it'll be fine. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Tom, so what made that scene memorable for you? I mean, what is it that stood out to you about it? Like, was it the individuals? Were they strong individuals? I mean, what was the scene like?
Well, we were all young and impetuous and excited about a new environment, an artistic environment, and hopeful that we would succeed in making a career of art and painting.
How would you describe those guys that you taught, that you went to school with? I mean, were they conservative? Were they a bunch of guys that just wanted to do the normal? What kind of guys were they?
Just average kind of guys, normal guys. A couple of eccentric. I remember Lynn Fowlkes. He was quite a interesting fellow. We had good conversations.
Cool. And specifically about Chenard, like, what was your experience with that school? And you can just say anything that you want, really.
Well, it was a good experience, definitely. It brought me into realizing that painting was my destiny, and I really had some good experiences with Richard Rubin. Basically, I thought he was one of the more intelligent directors, or the artist teacher.
And in terms of your own work, like, is there anything that you learned specifically at Chenard, or what was going on?
Well, basically, it was an introduction, but basically I'm self-taught. It was a great introduction to the art and art world, but basically I left in a very short time and started working on my own, coming into my individual way of working.
Cool. Okay. I mean, I don't know if you've been to other art schools, but what made Chenard unique in your mind, as a school, as an art institution?
Well, they offered me the scholarship. That was the main thing. That was the reason I went.
Okay. Cool. Do you remember Nelbert Chenard at all?
I'd seen her on the scene, but I think Gerald Nordland came in at that point while I was there. He became the director. And but I didn't have any. I remember seeing her around there, but it was very infrequent.
Okay. Had you heard anything about her, or like, is there anything that you can tell us about her? Or?
I really don't know that much about her, except that she was actually the founder of the school.
Okay. Cool. Do you think there's any potential for a new Chenard? Like putting up that sort of some of the ideals that institution stood for in the present?
I have no idea. I have no idea where the art world is going.
Okay. Well, is there any way you could talk, Tom, just about a little bit more in depth about your experience with Chenard and some of the artists that you were your colleagues then?
I can't really say much. I can't remember that much about it, actually, but it was a good time.
Okay. Do you have any memories, like, about, any kind of people you knew then, or any kind of stories that happened to you while you were at Chenard, or anything at all?
No.
Okay. What kind of work were you doing when you were at Chenard?
Well, a lot of painting and drawing. I was doing my own improvisational kind of work. I was kind of a rebel, you know, against the rules and all that. But I do have samples of it out in California still. But it was very progressive work and very interesting. And
were you at all inspired by? Were you at all inspired by any of the characters, you know, at that time? Like anyone that, you know, were your colleagues? You know, was it a good environment in terms of?
well, not really. You know, not really. I was inspired by my own intentions, basically. But I did admire, you know, Jackson Pollock and Willem de Kooning as, you know, contemporary painters.
Cool. So you were there for a year and a half?
Approximately, yeah.
Okay, cool. What kind of courses were you taking at the time?
Well, drawing and painting, basically, and one design class with more.
Right on. Can you talk about like what you were going through, like maybe, you know, as an individual at that time period, like with regards to what was going on in the time period, you know, society-wise, maybe how you felt about that, or as an artist, or?
Well, I simply knew that that was my destiny to become an artist and to and continue working as I am now.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's just wait for this phone to end.
Hello, please leave a message after the tone.
Basically, like, I just wanted to, you know, like, who are the guys now that you're in touch with that you were?
Well, Daniel Johnson is the closest one. He's here in New York. We're neighbors here in Soho, and Jason Crumb was very close up, but he died a few years back. Jason Crumb was another one of the painters that was in that group during the 57, 58, 59.
Right. Is there anything that you find like Chouinard artists having in common, or do you know what I mean?
Well, I think every artist is kind of like on their own trip. Yeah, that's what I found out basically over the years. And we've all gone in our own ways, and some have become very successful, and others are just struggling along. But basically, generally, it was a great experience for me.
Cool. As like a creative person, is there anything that you can tell us about what you were going through at the time, or, you know, because I know, like, when I went, you know, people ask me, you know, I went to New York University, you know, I
Right.
could say that, you know, well, maybe I didn't really like the school, but I liked the people that I was hanging out with, or, you know, we all worked on each other's films, and, you know, that sort
Right.
of sense of being together. You
I
know,
didn't feel a big camaraderie, actually, but there was a favorite bar I started going to. It was like Barney's Beanery, and that's kind of where the socialization with the art crowd occurred. That was in West Hollywood, and Los Angeles was the major art center in the world at that point. I began meeting people like the people at Ferris Gallery, Irving Blum and Walter Hopps. And I started working at Dwan Gallery back in '59, Virginia Dwan. And I hung and lit shows for, I met Rauschenberg and Castelli. I hung and lit his first show in New York. And I met Andy Warhol in '62 when he had his first show, Soup Cans at Ferris Gallery. So I have a long history of going way back in New York, where the LA art scene. Back in '63, Everett Ellen was also an art dealer, came forward, and we ended up driving across country. And I began working in Marlboro. He became the director of the American Art Division, and I hung and lit shows for Rothko and Gottlieb and Pollock, and showed David Smith, and met a lot of interesting people at that point. Became really connected with the New York art world. And Mike Hanamitsu was very instrumental in setting me up when I first came here in '63. September 28th, I arrived. And the rest is history.
Tom, can you tell us at all, like, what the art scene was like in LA at the time that you were going to school at Chouinard? Like, Do you know, like, were there particular galleries that people were showing at? Like,
Well,
what-
Ferris seemed to be the hot gallery, and then Everett Ellen came in, and of course Dwan Gallery was really very hot because she was able to fly in New York painters. She had a lot of money, and very good woman. I worked with her for about 3 years. Ed Keno's was actually there at that time, hanging in line. He was actually crating paintings and uncrating them that were being shipped in from New York City. So it was a good experience, totally.
when someone would have a show, would be like, hey, you know, all your sort of other guys you knew would come
Right.
down and check it out. I mean, what was that scene like?
Well, it was a very active scene. Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Was there any work of anyone else that went to Chenard that you thought was cool, or?
No comment. No comment.
Okay.
There was all. Everyone had their own direction to go, and they pursued it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything that stays in your mind now from that time period at all, or anything you look back at fondly? If you could describe that to us, sort of give us a.
No, actually, I'm just looking toward the future. Yeah, right now.
Cool. I noticed that even back then, your work was very spiritual, Tom.
Yeah, I've always been motivated by the spiritual realm of art, and I've lived through many periods of art here in New York, commercial art, more commercial than mine, and it's time that everyone takes a look at what I'm doing.
Cool.
Maybe this will help.
Yeah. Is there anything? Do you want to talk about maybe like what you're interested in as an artist? You know, what kind of themes in life, or you know, like what is?
Well, I'm just interested in creating imagery that people can allow themselves to penetrate their own spirituality by just simply opening their mind and receiving the imagery that I produce, and enjoying it, and then bringing a sense of beauty into their life, spiritual beauty, understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us maybe? So spirituality is very, very key to your artwork.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
always.
Great. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about where some of the people that you knew at Chenard, where they sort of, you know, you said everyone is on their own trip and sort of went in a different direction. Can you tell us maybe like where some of these guys were then and where people are now?
Well, many of them got picked up very early into the art scene, like Larry Bell and Ed Ruscha. Basically, became very hot in the pop movement back in the late '60s and '70s, and Leo Castelli picked up on Ed Ruscha, and so a lot of guys made it very big in the very beginning of the whole thing, and others just struggled along. So there's a lot of politics involved, and a lot of family, and all kinds of reasons that people make it, and other people have a more difficult time doing it.
Right. That's understandable. What about like some of the other people? Like, you know, can you talk about sort of? I'm trying to rephrase my question. Sorry. What kind of, you know, some people think that Los Angeles is just, you know, not an art town, you know, not a cultural town. Like, was there some kind of element that there was like something really hot going on there at that time, and perhaps people don't really know about it?
Difficult to say. I mean, it's just it's up to the individual artist and their ability to show and connect, and New York was a place to come, you know, to get new experience, new feedback, and I've been here ever since, 63, hanging in.
Cool. What do you love about this city as an artist?
Just the energy, it's just total chaos, and I'm trying to keep an order in my own life amidst the madness and beauty of what's going on here, the phenomena.
Right. That makes sense. can you tell us a little bit more about the sort of rebel kind of personality you were at the time? Like, what exactly didn't you dig? Like, what were you kind of fighting against, do you feel?
Well, I was fighting, basically, I saw this whole pop movement going on.
I'm sorry, that thing is just driving me crazy, that siren.
Yeah.
You know, Tom, would you mind turning off that light back there for a second? I just want to see what that would look like.
I'm getting a little worn.
You're getting a little warm?
Yeah, my...
Okay. We'll be done in like 5 minutes.
You're going to edit this thing?
Yeah.
Because I feel a little dry and...
Do you want to drink some water?
And unconscious.
Just, you know, like with relation, because an artist, I feel like sometimes is responding to the society, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so in the 50s, like, was there some kind of thing going on? Like, tell me why you were a rebel. Tell me why you were an outsider.
Well, basically, are you recording now?
It doesn't, if you don't want me to, I won't. I mean, you can just tell me, like, just casually, you know?
Well, as an artist, you're a different kind of person than most people, you know. And I just had this inclination of getting myself off and doing paintings and drawings, and that was my main focus. And enjoying, you know, I had wonderful experiences just painting and drawing. And it all came out, and I knew that was my destiny beyond society, you know, and I'm continuing to do it now.
What does that do for you, like, when you are in the process of art making? Are you transported somewhere? I mean,
well, I actually ended up performing art on altars of churches here in New York, St. John Divine Cathedral, and I wanted to share, basically, you know, the experience of art to people. So I got into performing art in the early 70s. It came out of the film collaborative drawing, basically, when Kent Holloway and I myself worked on this 16 by 5 foot pastel drawing, and it became a film. We documented it in 11 minutes. It became a hot film that was premiered at the Museum of Modern Art and has received you know, applause every time I've shown it. And basically, it gave me the impetus to explore, you know, going to different people at Calvary Episcopal Church and St. John's. And